Good morning. My name is Miss Danielle, and I teach in this blue room with the second and third graders. It's good to be with you today. So before we start our story, we always like to see where we are in the circle of the church calendar. For a long time now, we have been in these green growing weeks, and they have almost come to an end. We have just 2 more green growing weeks before we change color. And so I wonder if you remember what we call these 4 weeks. We call these 4 weeks Advent, where we are waiting and getting ready for the great mystery of Christmas. So to get ready for our story, I like to take a couple of deep breaths. So I'd love for you to take a deep breath with me. Breathe in and out. Let's do one more breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay, let's check where our story comes from today. Our story comes from the Old Testament, from the section we refer to as the prophets. Our story is the book of Daniel. So maybe later today, you can pull out a Bible and read through the story with your family. So we're ready to begin. The people were in exile. They had been living in Babylon for a long time. And so some were even getting used to it. Some even had jobs in the court of the king. Daniel and his 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, worked in the court of the king. God blessed them with wisdom, skill, and learning. One day, the king of Babylon had a dream. He dreamed of a shining figure. As he watched it, it fell apart and blew away in the wind. None of the wise men in the king's court knew what the dream meant, but Daniel did. There would come a time when all the kingdoms of the earth would be destroyed, but the kingdom of God would last forever. Another day, the king had a gold statue of a person built. He commanded all of the people to bow down every time special music played and worship the idol. Daniel's 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, would not worship the statue. The king said that all those who did not obey would be thrown into the furnace. And so the 3 friends were thrown into a blazing, fiery furnace. But God sent an angel to protect them, and not a single hair on their heads was burned in the furnace. The king was amazed, and he gave the 3 friends a place of honor in his courts. The king had another dream. Again, none of the wise men in his courts knew what the dream meant, so they asked for Daniel to be brought to the king. In the dream, the king saw a tall tree that reached to the sky. It was filled with beautiful leaves and fruit. Animals took shelter under the tree, and birds filled the branches. The Most High came down from heaven and said, "Cut down the tree and let the animals flee and the birds fly away." Daniel prayed to God, and God told him what the dream meant. Daniel told the king, "The tall tree you see is you. You are strong and great like the tree, but you will be driven out of your kingdom and forced to live like an animal eating grass for 7 long years." And the dream came true. The king was driven out of his kingdom and forced to live like an animal for 7 years. When the king returned to his throne, he worshiped the one true God. After the king died, his son became king. His son did not know the one true God. One day, he had a great feast, and he used all the things from the holy temple in Jerusalem that had been brought back by the Babylonians. Suddenly, the people at the party saw the fingers of a human hand writing on the wall. The king couldn't read the writing, so he sent for Daniel. The words were Tiki Tiki Mini Parsons, which meant God would bring this king's rule to an end, and the kingdom of Babylon would be divided and put into the hands of the Medes and the Persians. And that very night, the king was killed, and King Darius took over. King Darius divided the kingdom into 120 parts and put 3 rulers over it. One of the rulers was Daniel. The other 2 rulers were jealous of Daniel. They knew he was the king's favorite and might one day rule over them. So they decided to trick King Darius into making a law that they knew Daniel could not obey. The new law said that everyone had to pray only to King Darius. Anyone who did not would be thrown into the lion's den. They knew that Daniel worshipped the one true God and would not pray to a king. So one day they found Daniel in his room facing Jerusalem praying. King Darius liked Daniel, but a law was a law, and so Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. King Darius was worried about Daniel. In the morning, he ran to the lion's den and called out to Daniel. And Daniel answered, "I am fine. God sent his angel to protect me from the lions." King Darius was filled with gladness, and he ordered that Daniel be brought out of the lion's den. Then the men who had accused Daniel were thrown into the lion's den, and all were killed. Daniel was given a place of honor in the king's court and prospered for the rest of his life. Daniel also had many dreams and visions. In one of his dreams, he saw 4 strange creatures. One looked like a lion, but with eagle's wings. One like a bear standing on hind legs with 3 ribs in its mouth. Another looked like a cheetah, but had 4 wings and 4 heads. And still another, the strangest of all, had iron teeth and 10 horns on its head. And in another dream, Daniel saw a strange ram and a goat. Daniel was troubled by these dreams, and so he prayed. When Daniel prayed, he sometimes had visions. He had a vision of the angel Gabriel, who helped him understand what these dreams had meant. Gabriel told Daniel that the dreams meant that the kingdoms on earth that ruled now would one day be destroyed, but that God's kingdom would last forever. Daniel continued to pray and had another vision, this time of a man dressed in linens with a gold belt around his waist. The man also helped Daniel understand the dreams. He told Daniel, "Do not be afraid. Be strong and courageous. The kingdoms of this earth will one day come to an end. There will be hard times, but God will always be near to his people and deliver them from all danger." And he promised Daniel, in the end, all will be well with you and with all of God's people. And so I wonder, what is the favorite part of the story for you? I wonder, what do you think is the most important part of the story today? And I wonder, what part of our story might be about you? Where do you see yourself in the story of Daniel? And I wonder, what part of the story could you leave out and still have all the parts that we need? I hope that you can take some time today to wonder about this story with your family.